let's bring in Byron Turnquist. He's the fire marshal for the West Bloomfield Fire Department. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So are you prepared for this week?
I think so. We're getting closer every day.
Can we just talk in general terms? I know that this is a little bit different year as far as how families are going to be gathering for the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday. But in general, do you typically see more fires around this time?
We can. Some years are obviously busier than others, but one of the biggest fire problems that we have in the West Bloomfield and the Tri-City area is careless cooking or cooking fires. So we do see quite a few of those every year.
And with that, I think about so many people who, especially this year, if I'm going to be, cooking a turkey for the first time, some people are like, oh, let me fry it. Those deep fryers seem to be kind of the rage a few years ago. Do you anticipate there are going to be more cooking fires this year?
I hope not. I hope everybody gets the fire safety message, and while they're preparing their meal, they do it safely. If you're going to fry a turkey, make sure you use the fryer outside, away from the house. You don't want to use it in the garage. You don't want to use it on the backyard deck. You want to keep it away from the house, probably at least 20 to 25 feet away. And before you put the turkey in the hot oil, you want to make sure that turkey is completely thawed out.
When should you start thawing your turkey? Not that I'm asking for personal reasons, by the way.
That depends on the size of the turkey. You want to give it a few days. Obviously, the larger the bird, the more time you want to give it. So it's probably a good idea to get that turkey defrosting right now, so it's ready for you.
Yeah, so it should already be out of the freezer is what you're telling me.
Yep, probably.
And knowing that this year we have a lot of first-time cooks, I would imagine, trying to make their Thanksgiving dinners themselves, other than because no one plans to have a fire. So can you give us some general overall safety tips that we should be trying and looking for?
Yeah, and I set up in my kitchen to hopefully give people a better visual and keep some ideas in mind. The first thing you want to do is while you're cooking in the kitchen, you want to make sure you keep a 3-foot area around the range. You want to keep people away. You want to keep guests away, adults away if you've got family members that are coming over. You especially want to keep little kids away from the stove, because kids can be running around and get rambunctious, but they can also be curious. So you want to keep the area around the stove clear, free from people. And then you're closer to the stove while you're cooking. One huge thing to help prevent a burn injury is just by taking the handles from your pans and turning them, just to keep them away so nobody accidentally bumps the handle. Little kids, if the handle's sticking out, they can get curious to see what's cooking, and they can pull on this handle and actually cause the hot food to fall on them, causing a burn. And we don't want that to happen. While you're cooking or preparing to cook your turkey, every now and then we see people that use the disposable aluminum pans that you can buy at the grocery store. Those aren't very strong. And when you put that heavy turkey in there, it won't support the weight. So you want to make sure that you use a strong pan with good handles that you can have your turkey in. And when you take it in and out of the oven to check it, that it's not going to spill and cause a burn injury.
I will say I love that you set this up in your kitchen because it does add to the impact and the effect. And you even have your little Thanksgiving hand towel behind you there.
Oh, yeah.
And with that, I'm thinking about that. So I've done these stories how many years? But I never even thought about the 3-foot rule, because when you're thinking about Thanksgiving, especially for people who have smaller kitchens, it can get chaotic in a kitchen.
Yeah. People love to gather in the kitchen because that's where people are preparing the meal and getting stuff ready. So they want to stay close to the action and see what's going on. And every now and then you get somebody that might want to snack as the meal's being prepared. Another good thing to keep in mind is while you're cooking, anytime you're cooking, not just Thanksgiving, you want to make sure that you have all the combustibles away from the the stovetop or the oven. Even stuff like hand mitts or the hot pads, you want to move those away, because if there were a fire to happen on the stove, you want to keep the fuel away so that the fire doesn't spread and get bigger.
So with that, can we talk a little bit about burns? Yeah. Because I would think that's pretty common around the holidays and people cooking in the kitchen. What is the difference? When should I know if it's severe enough to actually go to an urgent care or to a hospital? Or do I just put ice on it or run it under cold water like my mom used to do?
Yep, you can definitely run it under cold water. You don't want to put anything oily on a burn. You want to cool it real quickly. If it's just a red burn, like a bad sunburn, keep an eye on it. But if that burn starts to blister, you definitely want to go have it evaluated by a doctor.
So when you say no oil, that includes butter?
No butter, correct.
Right.
That'll help. That actually keeps the heat in, and it doesn't allow the skin to cool, so that burning process can still be continuing.
But that's kind of like an old wives' tale then, right? Back in the day, yep. Put butter on a burn.
Exactly. The best thing to do is to cool it, keep it clean and dry. And like I said, if it blisters, you want to go have that evaluated by a doctor.
Byron Turnquist with us here on the Oakland County MegaCast. He is the fire marshal for the West Bloomfield Fire Department. So also at this time, especially because we had those few days of nice weather and after the snow, so many people are already putting up their holiday decorating, their Christmas trees and everything else that comes along with that. Can we talk a little bit about extension cords? Because while they're handy, sure, they can be dangerous, right?
They can be. As a fire marshal, as a fire investigator, extension cords are not my friend. They are convenient. They can be used temporarily if you need to power something. But after you're done using that, the use of the extension cord should be discontinued as soon as possible. Every time you use an extension cord, before you use it, you should always check and make sure that there's no damage. Make sure there's no cuts to the cord. Make sure there's no crimps. Make sure that the plastic sheathing on the outside of the cord is intact and going to protect you from an electrocution. These cords here that are very convenient. You can find them in the grocery store and the hardware store. This is nothing more than a real cheap stranded wire, and it's not meant for any heavy load. If you want to use it short-term temporarily for some Christmas lights, you can do that, but you don't want to run anything that's going to have a real significant draw through a cord like this, because it's not designed to handle it, and it will lead to a problem.
How do you know, though, what is going to have a bigger draw than a lesser draw, as you were saying?
Typically, a great example is you never want to plug in any space heaters. With things getting colder, people will start to use space heaters. You don't want to use a space heater or anything with a motor on it that's going to draw a lot of electricity and create heat itself. You don't want to use an extension cord on that. The cords aren't designed for that. There's some industrial cords that they can use, that contractors can use when you use with tools for projects. But again, those are temporary. And as soon as you're done using that tool or doing that project, you unplug it and put everything away. You want to make sure that if you are using an extension cord, you can always see it, see the condition that it's in. You don't want to cover it with a rug and let people walk all over it, because if that cord becomes damaged, you won't see the damage to it.
I also, so many people, when it comes to holiday decorating and with their Christmas tree, you have so many lights that they plug in to one another. How do you know how many you can plug into before it could create a dangerous situation?
If you read the packaging, it will usually indicate how many strings that you can plug in together. And you don't want to exceed obviously the manufacturer's recommendations, because they've been tested to that point. A lot of the newer lights will have actually little fuses in them. And if you put too many strings on, it'll start to blow that fuse, and then the lights will stop working. Another thing that drives my wife crazy, but I'm a little stickler in the house, whenever we're not home, the holiday decorations are off. So don't leave them on when you're not at home, because if there is a problem, you want to be home so you can discover it and take care of it and hopefully prevent a fire from happening.
And obviously right now, everyone is getting their holiday Christmas tree live versus fake.
If you do use a live one, I grew up in a house with a live tree. It's very important to keep it watered. You don't want to put it up or cut it down and bring it into the house and do that too early. You want to prolong that a little bit. But if you have a live tree in your house, you want to keep it watered. If the needles start to fall off, it's getting dried out, and you should address that. You should really watch that tree.
Hey, can we talk a little bit? How many fires do you actually see from live Christmas trees? I know typically the fire departments across the country once a year at this time will do a demonstration to show how quickly live trees can go up. And so you wonder, people like the smell, and for some people it brings in that spirit, having that smell in their house. And I know a lot of firefighters, and they refuse to have a live Christmas tree. So when you say watering and the needles falling off, I always look at, when do I know? Because I'll check it and it seems to have a lot of water, but the needles are still starting to fall off, especially, after the first of the year.
Yeah, and that's a sign that the tree's been cut and up as a decoration for too long. If you're going to use a live tree, you want to minimize that time that you actually, from when you cut it. It's hard to gauge that when you buy the tree from a Christmas lot or a tree lot, knowing when exactly that tree was cut. My family's tradition was we went as a family to the Christmas tree farm and cut the tree down. So we knew when that was cut and brought into the house, and we kind of gauged that. And after Thanksgiving, it went up, and shortly after Christmas, it came down. And we were fortunate to never have a problem. But again, even growing up, my parents were sticklers too, that we didn't leave the lights on the tree if we weren't home. If we were going upstairs to go to sleep, all the Christmas decorations were unplugged. You want to make sure that you keep an eye on what's going on inside your home. Another thing that comes along with Christmas trees, it's also a popular time for candle use. We see a lot of fires. We see more fires caused by candles than we have by Christmas trees. And it's just very important, again, that if you're going to use that candle, to make sure that you stay in the room while that candle is lit. Don't light the candle. Don't leave the house. Don't go run some errands. Don't go upstairs. Stay in the room where that candle's lit. And when you leave, extinguish it to make sure that there's no problem.
So what about outdoor lights?
Same thing. I know it's tough in the evening, especially as it gets darker. People want to leave the lights on more often or longer. But again, I would recommend that you at least be home while you have those lights on.
So obviously one of the best things, you go through the neighborhood, you want to see the neighborhood lights. Should people leave them on all night long, or do those now you can do Google. I think I had mine last year set up to Google, so I could say, hey, Google, turn off the lights. Are those wise investments?
Yeah, and you could even use timers. We've used timers at our house where the lights will shut off at a certain time. Again, most of the fire deaths that happen across the country happen while people are sleeping in their homes. So if you can avoid the risk, minimize the risk of having a fire during the night, you want to do that. One of the easiest ways to do that is make sure that your Christmas decorations are off. They're wires that are exposed to the elements for a couple months every year. They're tucked away in the box. You can replace them, but a lot of people don't necessarily replace them every year. They just put them up and they want to enjoy them. And we want everybody to enjoy them too, but we want you to enjoy them safely. So if you're going to go to sleep, make sure your candles are out, all your decorations are off, inside and out, and make sure that your smoke detectors are working inside your home.
Byron Turnquist here with us on the Oakland County Megacast. He's the fire marshal for the West Bloomfield Fire Department. And when you mention going to sleep, I always get confused. Is the recommendation now to close the bedroom doors or to keep them open?
Definitely to sleep with your bedroom doors closed. Again, fires burn hotter and faster than they ever have before with the furniture and the items that we have in our homes. And having that bedroom door closed will keep the smoke and the hot gases, which is what's really dangerous to us in a fire. That keeps that away from you while you're sleeping in your bedroom. That allows the smoke detectors time to alert you that there's a problem, and allows you time to call 911 And if you can check your door and still make it out of the house to get to your family's meeting place, great. But if not, you keep that door closed. You can open your window up and let us know exactly where you're at. And when we get there, our first priority is going to be to rescue you out of your house.
I think there's been a lot of confusion because back in the day, I thought the process was to keep the doors open. But now that has changed, so there's a public awareness effort going on to inform people to keep those doors closed, which could be hard for parents because they'll think, hey, I want to leave the bedroom door open to, so I can hear the baby crying.
That's true. And you mentioned technology a few minutes ago with turning our Christmas lights on and off. The technology is even better as far as baby monitors and having cameras and that type of device that can be next to your bed so that if your child does stir in the middle of the night, you'll hear that even with your door and your child's door closed. It's important right from the beginning to train them and get them used to sleeping with their bedroom doors closed.
So quickly, before we let you go, kind of piggybacking off of that, so many more people are at home a lot more now. Like I've noticed we're using our appliances so much more. I feel like I'm running the dishwasher each and every day. Are you seeing an increase of fires in homes right now because people are stuck in their houses a lot longer?
Luckily, right now, we haven't seen an increase in fires, especially not the significant fires. We've seen some small, I call them small fires. There's still a fire in people's homes, and we don't like to see any of that. But we've seen some small fires, but not the number of large fires that we usually have every year. So people are being safer, being home at more. They're paying attention to things. It's good.
Quickly, before we let you go, anything I didn't ask that you want to add to the conversation before we go into the Thanksgiving holiday?
Just want to wish everybody a happy holiday season and make sure that you test your smoke alarms because that's what's going to give you the early warning in case there's a fire.
It's a good time to do it. Thank you so much for being with us here on the Oakland County MegaCast.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay, and happy Thanksgiving to you and your family as well.
Thank you. You too. Happy Thanksgiving.